Good morning, good morning. It is Thursday, the 16th of January 2025. Well done on making it this far. Big shout out to Dark 4x4 in the chat. We've also got Anthony Fisher in there, Unquiet Badger. We've got Billy Kershaw. We've got Siskin Edge. We've got Reagan Elite. We've got Pete's Music. We've got others. I am Graham Hughes. And if you would like to join our fellow socialites in the chat, all you need to do is just tap onto that subscribe button and just wait for about 30 seconds and you'll be able to join them in the chat. No trolling, please, no trolling. We're going to be talking about Israel today. We're going to be talking about Gaza. Let's try and keep our emotions, calm on this, because obviously we have very strong feelings about it, all of us, I'm sure. So, ceasefire was announced yesterday. A 6-week program. So the first step is the release of 33 Israeli hostages and hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. And then the next step, which will be agreed in the next 6 weeks, or as long as the negotiations take, which will see another tranche of hostages being released, and I suppose Palestinian prisoners as well. And then the final push will come after that. However, 20 Palestinians were killed last night in ongoing bombing from Gazans were killed last night, overnight, and the cabinet, the Israeli cabinet, are still to ratify this brokered peace deal, this ceasefire deal, and they're taking their sweet time about it. They were supposed to have done it by now. There's a few things I want to talk about. First of all, who takes the credit for this? Biden has been pushing for this for a very long time, since May last year. No one could argue that this shouldn't have come sooner. This should have happened ages ago, like literally ages ago. And then 46,000 Palestinians might not be dead. The ongoing conflict there is obviously horrific, and I'll come on to the historical aspect of it, but let's just talk about this whole credit taking thing. Like, it was Biden's administration that really pushed for this, but it was I believe Netanyahu didn't want to go forward with it until he knew that Trump was coming into office, and that's why it took till the 19th of January for it to go through. You could argue that actually Trump delayed it by running for office. If he had not been running for office, Netanyahu wouldn't have given a shit, and whoever won would have been pushing for peace in the Middle East, whereas Trump is very much on the side of the Israeli government and no one else. Well, he's on the side of himself, really, and no one else. But the Israeli government's got loads of money, you see. Palestinians, not so much. So he'll just do what he's told by his, handlers in Israel and Russia and Saudi Arabia and elsewhere. The fact that sort of Biden's taking credit for it, which he should, but also he's got to take some of the blame for it taking so long and the people that died in the process while people were politicking. While people were playing politics. This is playing politics with people's lives. This is Netanyahu going, I want the criminal Trump to be president of the United States of America, because then it makes it a lot less likely when Netanyahu isn't in power anymore in Israel for him to actually go to jail himself, because he'll say, well, I can't go to jail. He didn't go to jail. Why should I go to jail? Etc. Sarah says, please send everyone write to their MPs about the proposed changes to PIP and proposal how to deal with mental health illnesses be facing cuts to disability benefits. Sarah, we'll be trying to cover that on the show tomorrow on the agenda with me and Phil. So can you bring that up? Because I want to tackle Phil on that. Jan says, I expect Netanyahu is waiting for the Trump administration to start. Can't see it lasting 6 weeks, to be honest. No, I mean, the idea is that the second stage of this will be negotiated over the next 6 weeks. But if it takes longer than that, then that deadline, the deadline will be extended. That window will be made wider. But, let's look at the violence is ongoing. I suppose it's supposed to stop on Sunday, which is the day before Trump gets into office. But we've seen I said 50,000 Palestinians have been killed since the beginning of October in 2023, and more than 2 million people displaced. That is like 4 times the population of Liverpool displaced, like had to go find somewhere else to live. Um, Obviously, Netanyahu is facing war crimes accusations by the International Criminal Court, and this feeds into why it's taken so long for this to come about, because he needs to know that Trump is going to be in power in America, because then the International Criminal Court means nothing. NATO means nothing. The War Crimes Tribunal in The Hague mean nothing, because Trump is going to do away with all of that. Like, Trump is going to do away with everything. Like, America is beyond fucked. I can't even begin to describe to you what it was like yesterday watching those hearings and the day before, where they were these Trump picks who were rapists, serial killers, murderers, sewer clown dwelling balloon salesmen. They are just the most rancid people to ever hold political office, and they're going to hold the highest political office in the land. They're going to be Trump's cabinet, and so many of them aren't politicians. They're just dickheads from a TV show on telly, like Trump is. Really, he's just a dickhead from a TV show. But this is the blurring of fiction and reality TV, I guess, or reality and reality TV. Let's put it that way. Some dystopian sci-fi nightmare where the reality TV, which reflects the very worst of us, the Anthony, the Katie Hopkins and the Donald Trumps of the world, that they slop their way into the high offices of various lands, and that for me is fucking terrifying. Will do. Had the PIP assessment yesterday, and it was awful, especially what symptoms do you think you have with your depression, anxiety, autism? Yeah, Anthony, what I found when I was doing my sort of ADHD assessment was just like, I don't want to say the wrong thing. Say, Graham, you don't have ADHD, you're just a twat. That's what I was kind of expecting her to say all the way through it. And I was just sort of giving examples of mad shit that I do, because I do mad shit all the time. But yeah, I mean, I think from the moment I said, yeah, I was the first person to visit every country in the world without flying. I think that's it. ADHD. You couldn't have done it without it. You must be mad. Regional impact. So we're just talking about what's happened in the wider scope in what we call the Middle East. We call it the Near East. You call it Western Asia, if you wanted to. Hezbollah in Lebanon's been crushed. I mean, it's been crushed. I mean, they've had a. I don't know if you mentioned this on Geoscope. I don't think we did, because we weren't doing episodes of Geoscope at the time, but we were talking about this on one of the other shows, I think, where in Lebanon, they've brought forward a law which actually Hezbollah voted for, which was to remove all armed groups from Lebanon. So that just effectively destroys Hezbollah as an armed militant group. It will continue on as a political group. The Sinn Féin side of things will stay on, but the IRA side of things will not. The Assad regime in Syria has collapsed. Iran has been weakened, and the Houthi rebels in Yemen have who have been attacking shipping in the Red Sea, which is great, because you got Somali pirates to the side, to the left of us, and Yemenis militia to the right. They've said they're having their own ceasefire following the Gaza truce. So the worry is, right, we've got 6 weeks, we've got 42 days. Is this peace going to be sustainable? Hamas aren't going to hand over all of the refugees straight away, and Israel still obviously have the upper hand here. They can continue to crush Gaza and the Gazans. But let's just be positive, okay? This pact so far, I mean, hopefully after Sunday, it will end the immediate bloodshed, at least for 6 weeks. But it doesn't resolve, and it will not, and it will never resolve the destruction that's happened. It's happened. The political instability in Gaza, humanitarian crisis, and also, let's dig deep into this, the religious roots of this conflict. The reason why Palestinians and Israelis feel like they can't live side by side in the same country and have elected representatives represent their interests and be able to live and work and thrive anywhere in that land, no matter who your parents are. That's the dream. And yet, when you have a division that's not based on, socioeconomic circumstances or what football team you support, but when it's based on religion, when it's based on people's entire worldview of themselves, and the fact that you have a lot of Israelis, and obviously not all Israelis, a lot of Israelis want peace, a lot of Israelis hate Netanyahu, but some Israelis, that their whole defining characteristic of their life is their religion. Their life revolves around their religion above all else. And there are Palestinians who are exactly the same, but for their religion. And how do you untie that knot? How do you work with people and say, look, the best thing, and I've said this before, I said this after the tragedy in the tragic events at the beginning of October in 2023, like I've met Israelis and Palestinians in the Middle East who wanted a one-state solution. They wanted to live in a country where you could be any religion or not. They wanted to live in a country where you could be free to be who you want to be anywhere in that country. Doesn't it seem mad to you? Imagine that there was a hard border on Wales, and all the Catholics lived in Wales and all the Protestants lived in England, and it was just, and they were always fighting with each other. It would just be nuts, wouldn't it? I mean, essentially, that's what we've got in Northern Ireland, where we still divide children up into Catholic schools and Protestant schools, which drives me up the wall, because I think, no, the best way to deal with this ongoing conflict that's gone on for generations is by the next generation not understanding why that conflict ever took place in the first place. And I've got to say, Israel, Hamas, they have done the absolute opposite of that. You will not have a kid in Israel who doesn't know what happened in October of 2023. You're not going to have a kid in Palestine who wasn't affected in Gaza, or even in the West Bank, who hasn't been affected by this ongoing conflict, by the crushing war machine of the Israelis. There's got to be no kid who hasn't lost someone. And then you're going to have that same animosity and hatred and deep-rooted skepticism of each other will continue. The cycle of violence will continue. So while I'm hopeful that this could be the end of this particular conflict, until we get into the roots of the matter, I don't think it's going to end in my lifetime, which is a really fucking depressing thing to have to say. Because honestly, in the 1990s, I thought we were nearly there. When Yasser Arafat and Yitzhak Rabin signed those accords in the 1990s, the world was thinking, bloody hell, this could be it. This could be it. But then it all went to shit. It all went to shit. And it went to shit because people are stupid. People think that they know best. People put their own prejudices, their own, ideas in front of the well-being of their own country. And this, for me, is the ultimate tragedy of Israel. It's not just that this war will go on for generations more, by the looks of things. Conflict without end. And you'll have these particular periods of hot war where things will get really, really bad. Lots of people will die horribly and that. But here's the thing. After the Holocaust, Israel was set up in the late 40s, and the idea was it would be a safe place for Jews to live. My question to you, my question to Israel, my question to my Jewish friends all over the world, is it? Because I would say no. And in that respect, the Israel project has failed, and it's failed miserably. And as I am not one of these people who think that Israel shouldn't exist. I think it has just as much a right to exist as Bangladesh or Pakistan or any other country that achieved independence in the 1940s, 50s, 60s. If you want to start redrawing the lines of the 54 countries of Africa, good luck with that, because it's going to be a bloodbath if you do. These are the borders we've got. These are the territories we've got. It is the way it is. You are not going to move millions of Jewish people out of Israel so it can be a Palestinian land. It's not going to happen. You're not going to move millions of Palestinians out of the West Bank and Gaza. And also Israel, there are a lot of Arab Israelis. You're not going to move them all out somewhere. That plan is for the birds. It's not going to happen. What you can only deal with the reality of today. And the reality of today is no one in Israel feels safe. No one in Palestine feels safe. We can't just keep going round and round doing the same stupid dance, because people are dying, people are suffering, children are dying in pain. And it doesn't need to be this way. And with the pressure from other countries, we can achieve great things. We as humans, I'm not taking credit for this. I was only a kid and I'm not South African or whatever, but we abolished apartheid. We did that. Humans did that. And there's no reason why, with the right amount of pressure, we couldn't somewhere down the line in the next 10, 20 years reach a settlement in Israel where it makes the vast majority of people happy. I would follow the Northern Ireland model, where if you want to be Irish, you can be Irish. You can have an Irish passport. If you want to be British, you can be British. You can have a British passport. If you want to be both, you can have both. So how about that? If you want to be Palestinian, get a Palestinian passport. If you want to be Israeli, get an Israeli passport. But people will kick back against that, and they'll say, no, because you don't know what the Palestinians will do once they're out of Palestine. And it's just nonsense. The idea that an entire group of people are all terrorists or all mean harm to people is one of the most grotesque ideas that is popular. It's racist for a start. It's Islamophobic, but also it taps into that whole thing of with J.K. Rowling when she said about trans people. Well, she didn't say about trans people specifically. She could have been talking about black people. Who knows? But she said that we need to stop the presumption of innocence for certain minorities. Wink, wink. Yeah, no. We need to presume people are innocent unless they are committing a crime. And let's be realistic here. Committing crime's getting a lot bloody harder than it used to be. You've got airport security. It is hard to get through airport security with anything, like even a box cutter, which is how they achieved 9/11, for Christ's sake. Never mind something more explosive. And this is why we've not seen plane crashes caused by terrorism like we've seen in the past. We've seen them being caused by the Russians shooting planes out of the sky in the case of the MH17 Malaysian jet, and also more recently the Azerbaijani jet that was shot down in passenger jet that was shot down in Kazakhstan. We've seen that, but getting stuck, actually committing those kind of acts of terrorism, it's got more difficult. People, if I think the ones that seem to do it, the ones that get anywhere with these horrific acts of terrorism, and obviously they're still happening. One of them will get through for every 10 that are stopped, or even more. We don't learn about the ones that are stopped because obviously they're ongoing investigations. But the situation is we're all being surveilled now. They've put George Orwell's Big Brother eye on the £2 coin this year, which seems very appropriate because Big Brother is watching us. Alexa is listening. Google is listening. Facebook is tracking you. Your Google is tracking you, and they're supplying that information to the security services, and they're cracking down. So even if it was true, which it isn't, that people from a certain area were more likely to cause terrorist atrocities, the chance of them getting away with it these days is diminishing. Is diminishing by the day, by the minute, by the second. But that aside, we could do this. We could do this, and this isn't me being wide-eyed and naive. I know the world is the way it is. I've seen it. Been to Israel. I've been to Palestine. I know that there is a better world that we can create, but we're not going to create it by falling for populist wankers like Nigel Farage and Donald Trump. I think the next 4 years We have to work together. I was saying yesterday on Facebook, my bloody mindedness isn't like, let's accept the enshittification of everything online or everything in life. Let's make our own. Let's make our own Facebook. Let's make our own Twitter. Let's make our own platforms. And something that, I'm working on at the moment. Let's make our own support network for creatives, not just political dickheads like me, talking politics online, but also people who want to get into the creative arts and are talented, but they don't get anywhere because the rich just take all those cushy jobs. They take all the cool jobs. It's all taken by the rich. The rest of us don't stand a chance. How about a universal basic income for creatives? How about that, eh? Wouldn't that be good? So between jobs, when you're going for auditions, when your YouTube money is halved over Christmas for some reason, you can still keep your head above water. How about that? How about a government that invests in us, squishy little humans, rather than investing in oil companies and carbon capture technologies and hydrogen? We're going to have hydrogen. Hydrogen is bullshit. Think hydrogen, think Hindenburg. I guess it's like the uncertainty principle. No, Hindenburg, the Zeppelin. I know that's not a perfect analogy, but that's the way it'll go down. And our government is planning to spend £20 billion over the next few years on this bullshit greenwashing technology that never will work. And even if it did work, it never ever be enough to deal with the amount of CO2 that we're putting in the atmosphere. How about a government that invests in us? Gives us not just the tools that we need, but the financial security that we know that we can pay the rent. We know that we can pay for the heating. We can actually put the heating on in winter. That'd be nice. Last week it was so cold here. We had I built a snow woman in the back garden with the girls last Sunday. It was still there on Monday. That's how cold it was. It was still there on Monday. I mean, it wasn't as cool as it used to look. I mean, it was just a mound of snow, but it was still freaking there. And yet we weren't putting the heating on when the girls weren't here. In the daytime when they're in school, we weren't putting the heating on because we can't afford it. And that's a shit position to be in when we're trying to help. We're trying to help the country. We're trying to help, you. We're trying to help ourselves. But we get fuck all support. And the Tories have made job seekers allowance or universal credit, whatever they're calling it these days, so difficult that you can't just be on it and practice with your band. You can't be on it and go through auditions. You can't just be on it and make YouTube content and keep that money. No. You've got to spend 35 hours a week looking for jobs, traveling to jobs, doing job interviews, until you get some shitty 0 hours contract, which means that you can't be ill, you can't be sick, you can't go on holiday, you don't get any maternity leave, paternity leave, you don't get any workers' rights, and you don't get a pension. So I'm going to just jump into the chat now for a little bit. I filmed out the form on 2nd of 9, sorted by 2 weeks, got paid extra ESA weeks as migration, don't worry, says Sean. Well, that's good. That's about ESA moving to universal credit, I think. Fritum Shuk says, what do you call a Palestinian politician with a tin of beans on his head? Yasser Marofat. Very good. But now's the time for jokes, I think. Christofascism says Zoshalex. I mean, yeah. Sonic says, I'd recommend the song Drunk in 1999 by the YouTuber German. One Angry Pagan says, religious fanaticism has the same effects as ideological fanaticism. Is that fanaticism? Fanaticism. Fanatic and fundamentalist philosophies. Oh, fucking hell, man. It's too early for tongue twisters. Fanatic and fundamental philosophies will likely continue to come about purely due to diversification, evolution, baby. I think we need to take a step back. I think that the first Inside Out movie was it's okay to not be okay. That was the moral of the story. It was okay to be sad. The first one was it is okay to be sad. You don't always have to be happy all the time because the parents are putting so much pressure on little Riley to be happy, even though she really wasn't happy, even though that sadness was growing inside her. And they were saying, no, push it down, push it down. But sometimes you should be sad. Sometimes shit happens and it's right and it's natural and it's normal for you to feel sad. The second movie was about it's okay not to be okay. She wasn't okay. She had a panic attack in the end. I mean, I don't want to do spoilers, but she wasn't all right. She wasn't coping with these new emotions, with these new feelings, with puberty, with everything else that was going on. And yes, I did cry in both of those movies. I think that the third one, if I was writing it, I would make it so in that one that the moral of the story was it's okay to be wrong. It's okay. You don't have to be right all the time. In fact, no one is. It's okay. You can make mistakes. We all make mistakes. What we've got to stop doing is having this mentality of like, I am always right. The way I do things is the right way to do things. Everyone else is wrong. Everyone else is out of step. Like the mother looking at the military parade and saying everyone's out of step apart from my Johnny. We need to just, I don't know, acquiesce a little bit in terms of our own self-conceit, our arrogance, our idea that, there's no other way to skin that cat. And that's a horrible expression, but you know what I mean? Like, there aren't. There are many ways to achieve things. And other people might not get it right all the time. I'm sure, I certainly don't get it right all the time. But I think some acknowledgement of that will go a long way. And, I think that would help with a lot of things. It would help with the religious fanaticism. It would help with parenting. These parents who want their children to be little miniature versions of themselves, and they're so disappointed when their kid turns out different to them. They've only got half your fucking DNA, Doris. They're not going to be they're not clones. Even if they were clones, they'll have their own personality, as we see with identical twins who are two different personalities. They won't both like the same things. They won't both, want to do the same things in life, even if they're genetically identical. And yet we have these parents who are so disappointed in their kids because, the kids aren't doing the things that they want the kids to do or think their kids should be doing. The only thing I would want, and the only thing I do want as a step parent, is for the kids to be happy. That's it, Not to say, oh, pretend that you're happy when you're not. No, that's something different. But just them to be just content in who they are, what they do in life. Happy, safe, feel safe, and be well. That's the most important thing in life. Not getting a particular job or hanging out with a particular type of people or going out with a particular type of person. Doesn't matter. Just doesn't matter. Let it go. Another Disney film. Alistair, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. UBI is what I want. That's why, Graham, it will help encourage people to do that. Thank you very much for the super chat there, Alistair. I think that we have to do it ourselves. This is why I'm starting this foundation, which, it's just going to be a handful of us to start with. But I want to have universal basic income for creatives like us. So that when we don't get any super chats, when the winds do not blow, when our videos don't get many views, but they're important videos that we need to make anyway, we still get money. We still have enough to pay the bills. I mean, I'm not asking for Bruce does, but, a few £100 a week would be very, very nice right now. And it's something that we can do together. If we have a collaborative effort, we have, donors, and, we've got such an amazing group of talented people that are putting content out there. I mean, in the future, I'd like to expand it to people who aren't just talking about politics. But at the moment, you think about the sheer talent of people like Zby Gardner, Supertansky, Aid Thompson. He puts up bloody amazing videos. He does. Femi. You think about who's the best public speaker at the moment on the left, talking about Europe, Israel, proportional representation. It's Femi. Who's the best public speaker we've got at the moment talking about immigration and waving the flag for immigration and it being a good thing? It's Zby Gardner. And they're not getting any support. they're not getting any support from any foundation or any, left-wing philanthropist, if they exist. I don't know if they exist anymore. But yeah, it is a bit heartbreaking that even in the days of of slavery, days of slave owners, people owning people's lives, those slave owners put the money that they made not into vanity projects, not into knob-shaped rockets so they can go fly into space with their mates, not into building a bunker so they can survive the oncoming apocalypse, not into, daft shit, but they actually, they built libraries and museums and shit. What are the billionaires doing now? I mean, so awful. Slavery. I mean, it's the biggest crime that's ever been committed by humans. But at the same time, the people who were committing this crime were like, should really give something back. Should give something back. And you could argue that they made parks and things like that, and originally it was just for the rich. But now everyone gets to enjoy that. But, the stuff that the likes of Zuckerberg and Musk and Bezos are spending their money on, it's not helping me. It's not helping you. It's not helping anyone but themselves. We got Musk saying, I'm going to make Starlink satellites everywhere. Everyone will get able to get internet anywhere, no matter where you are in the world. Sounds great. If it was a philanthropist in charge of that. But it's not. The guy who wants fucking money. And if you don't pay him, he has got the best way ever of extorting money out of countries, which is, I'll turn the satellites off over your country. Ta-da, no internet, goodbye. I'll pull the plug like Johnny in Airplane when he turns the lights off on the landing strip. It's so frustrating to live in a time when the very worst of us are elevated by our society. And people worship them. I mean, people worship Boris Johnson still. You'd be surprised me. You think I'm talking bullshit saying that, but there's people out there who think that he was a great man and he just wasn't given a fair run at it. There are people out there who still think that Liz Truss has got something to say. They pay money to go and see her speak. She talks like a sixth form prefect giving a presentation about worm colonies. Like, that's the way she comes across when she speaks. That's what she sounds like to me. That is my Liz Truss impression. I think it's fucking deadly accurate. Take that, Naveen Skinner. But yeah, the end shitification. The end shitification. It was the word of the year last year, and it's really struck a chord with me. I have a fierce Rastacat mascot now called Pongo Bongo. That's cool. One Angry Pagan says, exactly, Graham. Diversification and adaptation are great examples of trial and error in practice. I think we have to think we have a full grasp on life is deluded. We always have more to learn, including from our mistakes. Yeah. But you have people, and I don't want to say it's one particular generation, because it's happening in lots of generations. And one of the most heartbreaking things about the Trump victory is a lot of young men were voting for him. So my hope that that populism, that dickheadness, that cruel, vindictive politics of the right will die off with the boomers. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But there are a lot of people who learnt everything they need to know about life when they were 6 years old, and that's it. They never need to learn anything more. And I think back to my opinions about stuff, and they have changed. They have changed. I don't have all the answers. And do you know how my opinions have changed on stuff? By talking about it. By having these Socratic discussions. This is it. This is, someone pointed out that the Socratic Dialogue, that, popularized by the TV show House, but also, when you have YouTubers, so TikTokers who do that thing where they talk, well, YouTubers as well, where they talk to themselves and it's a dialogue between two people, but it's one person writing it. That's what the dialogues were. That's what Socrates or Socrates, that's what his dialogues were. They were a conversation between two people asking those questions. And it's something that I think is intrinsic to the human experience. We can't come up with, answers to the questions of anything on our own. We just can't. We can come up with ideas. But I always find that when I come up with an idea for a TV show or a movie or a radio script or something like that I'm working on, I can't do it on my own. I need to discuss it with someone. I need to sit down and just say, "Oh, can I tell you about the story that I'm thinking of? Well, this has happened, and they will make me think of things that I haven't thought of. Not necessarily, it's like, I will steal all your ideas, give you ideas, but it might not be that. It could just be a sounding board, but it makes your brain go in different directions as you try and understand what the problem is and how that problem can be solved and come up with clever ways of doing it. And I find that incredibly difficult to do on my own. I much prefer to talk about it. I much prefer to talk to someone. Could be you, could be Catherine, could be anyone. I mean, it could be someone who's just engaged in that particular conversation. As long as they're not just going, all right, whatever, I guess. I can't remember anything else. That is a disgrace. That is a disgrace. Listen, I've gone a little bit over time, but I would like to just drop into the Morning Brew papers for just a few seconds. Because, look, this is, ostensibly, this is a good news story, isn't it? I mean, the peace in the Middle East, maybe. Ceasefire joy on both sides. You've got people celebrating in Gaza. You've got people celebrating in Tel Aviv on the front cover of the Times there. Surge in mobile phone robberies, driving, soaring knife crime. There's actually a thing on Google now, on Google devices, Android, that when it feels like it's been snatched out your hand, it automatically shuts off and closes off all your data, access to all your data. Which is great, but it doesn't matter because what's happening with so many of these phones, and thousands and thousands of them are being stolen every week, is that they're being shipped off for the components. They're being, it doesn't matter that they're locked. They've got important components inside and they're being opened, or, something's being replaced on the motherboard and then they're being sold off again. So, yeah, it's a huge issue with mobile phones. But then you've got people who are like, I don't care if my mobile phone gets robbed. I'm insured, which is not a great attitude to have, I have to say. I mean, like, yeah, great, but you're just driving up the insurance costs for everybody else and encouraging people to steal. Ceasefire. Israel and Hamas reach deal to end war and free hostages. That's the front cover of the Eye there. Hope of end of dark chapter with Israel and Hamas ceasefire. Yeah, it's the hope that kills you, isn't it? Joy and fear. Exhausted Palestinians hardly dare to believe. I can quite imagine that. Two sides agree pausing fighting for 6 weeks to broker a lasting peace deal. First group of 33 Israeli hostages to be freed on Sunday in exchange for jailed Palestinians. Yeah, absolutely. And then there's this story out. Linda Nolan, the Nolan sisters, passed away. But also, we've got this bombshell NHS report, chaos in hospital corridors. The way it sort of looks on that cover, it sounds like this is a Labour problem, but it's not. This is a report into the 10 years of Tory chaos. This is the Tories. This is this is the situation that the Tories left the NHS in, and something that we really, really mustn't forget. Katrina Tam, thank you so much for that £20 super chat. That is really, really kind of you. Morning, Graham. Caught up on your Lego stream. I didn't know you had colour blindness. Were you aware there are now lenses that allow colourblind people to see colour now? Bought a pair for my uncle and they work great. Ooh, no, I didn't know that. I'll look into that. Glasses are so expensive, though. I read somewhere that there's one company that makes glasses, like all the glasses in the world. It's one company, and they just doubled the price of glasses in the last few years. Like doubled it, went up by 100%. What's something that you need every day if you need it and can't live without? Glasses. Alistair Graham is saying thank you for the support. Yeah, thank you so much, Katrina. That is really, really kind of you. So yeah, go back to the hospital thing. It's covered in one of the other papers as well, but this is a Tory thing. The shame and horror of NHS corridor care. This is the Daily Mail putting the blame on the NHS corridor care. Devastating 460-page dossier compiled by frontline nurses lays bare the shocking reality of inhumane hospital conditions. Yeah. Dead patients are being lying undiscovered for hours in A&E because NHS staff are too overstretched to notice. A harrowing report reveals today. Severe shortage of beds, pregnant women suffering miscarriages, Royal College of Nursing, features testimonies of more than 5,000 nurses. It's becoming normalised. No word of the fucking Tories that caused this problem. Not a single word about that in the Daily Mail front page. It's not, this is what the Tories have done. Where does it say the Tories? Someone was in charge of the NHS when this was the situation. This report hasn't been compiled in the last couple of weeks. This is an ongoing thing. But of course, why would the Daily Mail, attack their own paymasters? They're not going to. Front cover of the Independent there, with just ceasefire. Exclamation mark. Israel and Hamas agreed to stop 15 months of fighting and reach deal to free surviving hostages captured on 7th of October. As Trump declares they will be released shortly. What's it got to do with Trump? He's not even president yet. It's Biden. Biden did this. And then LA fires visit shows Sussexes are out of touch. They're damned if they do, damned if they don't. It's great, that, isn't it? Baby Girl and the Power of Pink on top of the Daily Telegraph. I'm going to see that later, so I'll let you know. I'll let you know how it is. And then pressure builds on Starmer in Adams' row. Attorney General, friend of PM, refused to say if he profited from work with Sinn Féin boss. I mean, this is... So they said, oh, Sinn Féin's going to get money. Well, this is Sinn Féin. Jerry Adams, in particular, will get this compensation or he'll get this money that he is due if we get rid of the Troubles Act, which Labour are planning to do. They're trying to make it like this is a bad thing. They're getting rid of this terrible act. And now the Telegraph are saying there's something else that Labour have done and it's terrible. They probably sold their own house and made like, I don't know, £1,000 profit or something. Britain's nurses described the heartbreaking burden of dealing with a record 518,000 hospital trolley waits of 12 hours or more last year, like watching a horrid film I can't stop. Heartbroken nurses describe harrowing cases of scenes of dying patients being crammed into hospital corridors, like watching a horror film. Given the brutal state of the crisis gripping the NHS. Nothing about the Tories, again, in the Daily Express, because this is a Tory rag. It's paid for by Tory donors who pay for the Tory party to further their interests of being Tory bastards. We've got US and Qatar announced Gaza truce, but Netanyahu warns deal not sealed. Yeah. I don't know if the momentum will just carry it through now. We'll see what happens today in the Israeli parliament, the Knesset. Daily Star here is solving the perfect way of eating a Cadbury's cream egg, which is very much the most important news that's going on right now. Clearly, but obviously that was paid for by Cadbury's, so they get a front cover on the newspaper. It's a bit like about this time of year you'll get holiday list of the best places to go on holiday. We'll get a news story in one of the newspapers, and it'll be like. What day is it today? It's the 16th. January the 16th, most depressing day. It says, say boffins. It's never scientists, it's boffins. Say boffins. And that article will actually be paid for by whatever Thomas Cook is calling itself these days. And on that same page, there'll be adverts, or it might be EasyJet or Ryanair, it'll be like a picture of the sun and saying, get away this summer. So you read the article, you go, yeah, I am feeling a bit down. And then you get down to the bottom of the page and you go, oh, I wouldn't mind a holiday. Capitalism. Mikey Farman says, why doesn't Elon build some hospitals instead of just talking shit? Well, exactly. I mean, because he doesn't give a shit. He doesn't care. He's just a narcissist. He's a psychopath. He's a cat addict. He wants his drugs and he doesn't care where they come from or how he gets them, as long as he gets them. New cream eggs are the size of bantam eggs. I face facts. My only belief is in science, method, process, and in what I sense directly. Even that is questionable. Yeah. There is a great motto out there, which is in verba nullius. I think that's how you pronounce it, or nullus. And it is the motto of the Royal Society, which was founded in the 1600s by the likes of Robert Hooke and Edmund Halley and others. And it means on the word of no one. And I love that. Don't take anyone's word for it. That's the way people should live their life. And that was their motto. And it also reminds me of the words etched above the cave in Delphi, the oracle's cave, that just said, know thyself. Know who you are and accept it and go, yeah, this is who I am. And I've got to just say something a little bit personal before I go. Since I got that diagnosis of ADHD last week, Catherine's already noticed like how much more productive I'm being and how much more focused I'm being. I don't have any medication. Just the knowledge that my brain works slightly differently to other people's. And I think it's just the alleviation of guilt. Like, I felt guilty all my life. I felt like I wasn't doing enough. I've always felt like I was playing catch up all my life. I felt like I've got a million things to do on my, my to-do list. I'm just like writing things and things and things and things. I have this idea that when I get to the end of this list, then I can finally relax and, enjoy my life. And it just doesn't work that way. And just the knowledge of that, the affirmation, has really, really helped me. And I just find it very interesting. Because I thought, why do I want this diagnosis? Well, I want to get something to help. Do I get some speed or something that'll help me in my executive functioning? But actually, just getting the bloody diagnosis, it's allowed me to forgive myself for a lot of the shit I've done in the past and gone, oh, that's why I did that thing. Oh, that's why I didn't get that thing to that person on time and they haven't spoken to me since. That's why I can't remember who my friends are when I go to Liverpool and have to keep a list on my phone just in case I forget someone, because I probably will. Out of sight, out of mind. Yeah, it's really it's been quite liberating. It's been quite liberating. Anyway. So I'm going to come back today at 5 o'clock because I wanted to do a show this evening with a couple of people from the channel, but I'm not going to be able to do that because we're going out and I won't be back in time, unfortunately, to do it at a reasonable time. So what I'm going to do instead at 1 o'clock today, 1 o'clock after James O'Brien finishes, I am going to be getting my Lego set out. And we're going to be doing some more Lego. There you go. There's the Indian Ocean there. There's the Pacific Ocean. We've got the equator. The equator's done. A little bit of South America here. Look, that's Galapagos. That's the Galapagos Islands. Hey, that's so cool. And then we move around. There's Africa there. Different countries of Africa. And yeah, Indian Ocean. That dot there that's Sri Lanka. That's the little teardrop at the bottom of India. And then if I just put little Graham on here like this, hey, there you go. There's the holder. So next up, we're going to be doing some of this. So I think today's project is going to be, we're going to take this and we're going to build a quarter of this building up to here, okay, up to the middle bit, and doing little curved bits on there and putting the countries on. And then what I found interesting about this is we put the countries on after it was put together. I kind of thought I'd put the countries on the table and then I'd put the panels on, but it didn't work that way. Which I think is more fun, actually, sticking the countries on when it's made. Anyway, so if you want to come and meet me build with me at 1 o'clock today, 1 o'clock till 2 o'clock, you're very welcome to do so. It's just a bit of fun. It's just a bit of fun. It's not, life-changing or like urgent that we speak about this. But if you can't join us for that, then please join us for tomorrow's politics social extravaganza, which is Friday. I tend to try and take Saturday off, so I try and make it a bumper crop on Fridays. So we will be doing the Morning Brew show in the morning at 9:30. Hope you join us for that. 1 o'clock, we'll be talking to Phil Morehouse about this week in politics. We'll be talking about what the Labour Party are up to. We'll be talking about the puberty blockers ban that I was talking about with Rachel last night in the intersection. Also, we'll be talking about the free speech thing in universities and whether it's going to mean that racists and knobheads and transphobes can turn up at universities and be horrible to minorities. And they'll just be allowed to do that for some reason. And then at 9:30 in the evening, we'll be back immediately after Maximilian's stream. You can watch Aid from 7:30 till 8:30. You can watch Maximilian from 8:30 till 9:30 or thereabouts. And then you can watch us from 9:30 onwards into the night. I'll be joined by Mike Dix and others as we put the world to rights over a few drinks and a few laughs. So please join us for that. Other drinks might be non-alcoholic, but it's just the way of the world these days. We're doing dry January by the looks of things. Graham is building a world audience about politics and the ultimate answer to life, the universe, and everything. Mostly Harmless. No, it was 42, wasn't it? Mostly Harmless was the update to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy's entry on the Earth. He was updating it from harmless to mostly harmless, which I love. But thank you very much for the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy reference. Always welcome on this channel. And until next time, 1 o'clock, hopefully, when I see you again, I'll say hello. Good evening. Well, first of all, I'll say thanks for the chat. Thanks for the super chats. Obviously, give us a like on the way out. And hello. Good evening, welcome, and goodbye.